Present. Yeah.
Present. May I have approval? Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Hartsley, Pastor Hartsley, Attorney Hartsley had a previous engagement. We are excusing him from our meeting tonight. He may come, but until this time, we're excusing him. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposers?
Before I don't know if this is the right time to ask, but can we pull the ACE item out for discussion before we vote?
Are you talking about the one in consent agenda?
Yes.
When we get to the
Wait for that.
consent
Okay,
agenda,
I'm sorry.
that's when you can pull that.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Are there any announcements? For members, you will notice that I put a little pin that says MSBA at each of your desks where you're sitting at. I attended a regional president's meeting Friday the 29th. One of the things that we discussed at the meeting is piggybacking off of something that St. Louis School District has done, and that is to think about creating an advocacy committee that will support our delegates with our decisions on things. And so as soon as they get some more documentation with me, I'll have Shay send that out to everyone. But we just really want to be proactive when it comes to our position on things that are discussed and voted on our behalf at the MSBA Delegates Assembly. So I'll be getting more information about that and then sharing it with our delegates. Are there any other announcements? Okay. Shay, do you have anybody listed as a patron for patron participation? All right. At this time, we're going to turn the meeting over to Dr. Wood Adams.
Yay. Just a couple of things. I just want to update the board. The administrative team, the entire district administrative team, participated in a retreat August 1st and 3rd at the History Museum. We took that time to try to get ahead of some of the things we have to do for accreditation and for MSIP 6. So we were trained, our first level of training in competency-based instruction. We had training from the company that will be doing the literacy labs at the elementary level. We went through MSIP 6 standards and indicators and what we need to do for CSIP, and then just some logistical updates. And then several of us, after the last meeting, took the opportunity to visit the Sounds of St. Louis exhibit at the History Museum. And the background that you saw yesterday, those of you who had convocation of our building leaders, was taken at the History Museum. The Back to School Bash was held on August the 2nd. It was a huge success. I had heard about the corn man. The corn man was worth the rep. The corn man. I ate several corn and took some corn home. But it's my understanding that we had the biggest turnout than we had, to people's knowledge, who were here. We did have one very highlight of the evening when Dr. Nichols got to chase alpacas across the high school grounds. Some of our football players decided to unhook the cage and they went after them. And I wish somebody had it on video. We haven't gotten that yet. Several members of the administrative team attended the alumni picnic, and we were able to talk about the work that we're doing here at Riverview Garden School District and finding ways for them to help us. In fact, some of them volunteered for the Back to School Bash and have offered to paint some doors and things at the high school. They had, one of them had 7 barbers, was it, at the Back to School Bash. And so we're just really glad that we've reconnected with them. They are also going to have some who volunteered to help with the Little Bit Foundation. You know, they were flooded out. Next Tuesday, Ms. Maria and Dr. Pat and I will have the luxury of traveling back to Jeff City to do our 3rd update to the state board. And what I will do is send the presentation so that members of the SAB can see what we are presenting. We have to do a snapshot in 8 minutes. And so we're going to time ourselves and get it down. The other thing I wanted to share is that I'm saving something, the convocation for last, that I will be coming forth with a process to identify a student rep to the SAB. My hope is that this will identify a student through a selection process at the high school who will be able to serve as a rep on the SAB. Additionally, we will be sponsoring a Beautify RGSD. The first one will be Saturday, August the 20th. We will start at 7:30, conclude at 11:30. We are asking each school site to encourage their teachers, their students, and their parents to come out and help trim bushes. We will provide the mulch, and we will do the same thing here at Central Office. Ms. Alderwoman Tatum, if that's your name right, from Bell Fountain Neighbors has indicated that they will also support us in this initiative. One more thing, I forgot. September 24th, we will be planting perennials so that this time next year we'll have beautiful flowers outside all of our schools. Last but not least, if you did not come to convocation yesterday, I'm telling you, you missed out. Dr. Patton and her team, and Dr. Patton, congratulations on a successful back to school bag. But Dr. Patton and her committee, from the choir, the district choir, to the alumni speaker, to men of vision, the drum line. It was all about students and what should happen. The highlight, however, of the day, who set the tone for the meeting, who took us to church. But it set the tone for the day by singing. No. It's tired.
That's a good one, though.
But anyway, Miss Morrow Real got up to bring greetings. And did she bring greetings? She had people in tears, waving their hands. I mean, it played in my head all the rest of the evening. I knew she was an eloquent speaker. I didn't know that she could sing. And I'm going to tell you, she set the tone for the rest of the day. The sessions were great. Just the spirit in the room with the choir singing Celebration, and they put in the words about Riverview Garden. And then the other one was, it's in my head, but it won't come out. Ain't no stopping Riverview now. And so it was a great day. And in the shirts, Dr. Singleton did the roll call. I really think Coke won the roll call, no offense to the other administrators in the building, but they had cowbells and everything. But it was a great day. Even got feedback from the union saying the fact that we had the continental breakfast, that we were there, everything was there, nobody had to leave and come back, that it was really great. So I just want to say to the committee, you did an awesome job. And to Ms. Morrow Real, you can sing today if you choose. Maybe set the tone for the board meeting. But those concludes mine now.
Thank you.
Ready for discussion?
Ready for discussion.
Before we go into the items, we know that we have a hefty agenda, but we know that each and every one of our board members has read their packet, and those who had questions sent them to us. And so we hope that we will get through this meeting expeditiously. We apologize up front for so many items that require approval and discussion on the same night, but we only have one meeting in July, and we're trying to get ahead of school opening the week after next. So I hope you understand. The first item, Lakina Curtis, come on up here. Is the federal programs 2021 review. It's in compliance with policy AF and policy IM. And this is for information. Ms. Curtis.
Excuse my voice. I am worked out. Dr. Patton did it. Good evening, SAB, Dr. Wood Adams, colleagues and community. I've provided a presentation to you all. I don't know if it's going to be shared. However, I'll go through really quick because it was also included on the first slide that you all have. There's a brief definition of each of the title areas, and there was also, I gave you a kind of a cheat sheet as well to kind of explain what each title area means to you, because there were a lot of questions prior to that did, for those that did not understand the difference between Title 1, Big A, Little A, Title 2, and 4, if that makes sense. So going through this presentation, thank you. Title 1A is the improvement of programs in all school sites. So all sites in some departments, for example, students in transition receive what's called Title 1 Big A funds. Last year for the 21-22 school year, the total allocation was $6,717,000, $744.85. In the area of Title 2, that particular funds program is for building systems of support for excellent teaching and leading. The total allocation for that amount, they have taken my thing away, is $618,000, $521.24 for the total last year. Title 1 Little A is a little bit different. That is for specific sites. They're like sub-grants. And again, there's a definition of there, but if you need more information, please let me know. But only particular schools receive those sites, and those sites are included as well. However, the total allocation for last year of all sites was $6,700,000. Oh no, title first. All right, right there. $2,781,883. And then we have the source of Title 4, which is student support and academic enrichment. And that area is really for violence prevention, arts and education. It is to promote more improved school climates and the reduction of discipline and things of those in that area. That total allocation for last year was $391,730.29. I also included for you all, you can go to the next slide, a financial report in total for all fund sources for the 21-22 school year of what the actual budget was, what we started with, and the percentage used and what we ended with. For Title 1, again, I gave you the amount that we started with, and we used about 63% of those funds for last school year. Title 1 Little A, I gave you the amount is a little bit over $2 million. We used about 56% of that total allocation. Title 2, I also gave you that amount, a little bit over $618,000, and we spent about 54% of that source. And then Title 4, we started with $332,000, and we only spent about 18% of that fund source. We'll go to the next slide. One thing that I am bringing with me in this position that I use as a building level principal and looking at the year as a whole and some things that we did well, what do we want to start, stop. So this is a tool that I use that I say, what do I want to stop? What do I want to start? What do I want to tweak? And what do I want to continue? So looking at that, this position of Director of Federal Programs was vacant until January of this year. So when you see those percentages so little in those fund sources, this position was not filled, if that makes sense. So there was not a lot of direction given to buildings and departments on how to spend their funds and what they could use it for. When I looked at the areas of where federal programs paid in positions, there were a lot of vacant positions, resignations, and things like that that we had to get caught up on. So those are some things that we want to stop, and one of those things we have stopped. Something that I would like to start is the revision of unused funds submitted to DESE by the end of the school year. So not this school year, the semester. So for example, we've received substantial approval of what we've submitted already. Right now, I've been working with building principals on their current budget, spending, and all of those things. So sometimes we are in a position to where a school may have an allocation for a reading specialist position, and that position has not been filled. So instead of letting those funds sit there for the entire school year unspent, writing a revision to get those funds placed in a different source so that the building can use those funds instead of not using them at all. Bridging finance with all districts, so in department sites. So again, coming from one level to another in this district, there were a lot of misconceptions being made on both ends, for buildings and departments have one idea of what finance is doing, and finance having an idea of what building leaders and administrators should know regarding finance. So bridging that gap between both areas. One thing that I want to tweak is the 22-23 school year monthly spend calendar and the guide. Something that, we're just told as building leaders that we have to have an 85% spend down. What does that look like in actuality? By October, how much do I need to have spent? By November, how much do I need to have spent? So developing that type of spending calendar, if that makes sense. Another thing that I would like to tweak is to provide sites with a monthly year-to-date report. So starting off this year, every site got where they are right now and what percentages they have already spent. So throughout this year, they'll get that same report on a monthly basis, so they'll know and there's no surprises come January that, oh my God, I still have $7 million that I still have to spend by March 31st, if that makes sense. Developing spend action plans for our non-public sites. That's a learning tool or area for me. We have several schools in our area that have students that live in our Riverview Garden School District. For example, Grace Chapel. They have probably the largest enrollment of our students that live in our district, and because they are Riverview Garden School District students, they're still entitled to these Title I funds, if that makes sense. So what I did find last year is those non-public sites that service our children did not reach out to spend those funds that were also allocated to them. So I've already reached out to them to get those funds spent as well. Plan to increase the community volunteer support. That is a district-wide initiative, as Dr. Hood spoke about in convocation yesterday as well. Evaluate the effectiveness on all resources supported by federal programs. There's a lot of resources in our district, and we want to work together to make sure that we're using them effectively. Do we still need them? What do we need to start, stop, and tweak in those areas as well? Something that I want to continue is to continue to participate in monthly meetings with all sites, continue supporting sites with the accounting codes and understanding what they mean and what they can and cannot spend on, collaborating with human resources and recruiting and retention, and supporting in the development of sites, their grant goals and plans and initiatives. Some of the positions that federal programs support are included there. We have teaching method coaches. We also call them instructional coaches, supplemental reading and math teachers, RTI, and interventionists, instructional assistants, homeless coordinator is in our budget, support staff for students in transition, early childhood teachers, and then my position and my assistant's position is also paid from federal funds. Some of the program resources that we currently support right now are for ELA is reading literacy intervention, Read 180, System 44, and Ingenuity. Those are things mostly used at the secondary level. Class library resource materials for all school sites. Right now, Abbott is a secondary instructional tool, but we're looking at coaching one elementary building into this process to see what that looks like moving forward. Math materials, family engagement nights, and then some pieces of technology as well. Some of the goals that I have for federal programs for the upcoming school year is, again, some of those things that I want to start and continue and tweak that I spoke about earlier: development, implementation of the grant goals, the spending guide, collaboration on purposeful spending and technology needs, and making sure that we inventory those things, supporting human resources with efforts on retention and qualified staff, increased community volunteering, and then evaluation of the effectiveness of the resources that we already have. That's all I have to present on the 21-22 school year. Are there any questions?
I just have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam President.
I'm getting a little, I'm glad you did this.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm still a little confused about, the federal programs, the Read 180 and all these little,
The resources.
well, actually the function, but I may be reach out. to you
Yes, ma'am.
privately to that. But my only question was, you said that there was a vacancy in this position before
Yes, the person
twenty
that,
twenty-one?
yes, ma'am. The person that did this position prior to me, resigned, I believe it was in August. Or September-ish. And so there was no one in this position, and then I started in January.
But someone did do this before you started.
Yes,
Started.
yes, was the position filled prior to me.
Yes,
That was a lapse in position, if that makes sense.
okay, but this has not been a vacant position. I mean, the question is, there was someone else who's done this job.
Yes.
And then they resigned.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
now you're the new
Yes,
director.
ma'am.
Gotcha.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. The next item 6B, is instructional coaches and reading specialists, offered to fill vacant teaching. This is in compliance with policy GCD, and, there is no recommendation. This presentation is from Ms. Monica Williams, Assistant Superintendent.
Good evening, Special Administrator for Dr. Pruitt Adams, colleagues and community. Tonight I will be presenting an item for information, and this one is regarding instructional coaches and also our reading specialists. A few weeks ago, we met with those employees and offered them a classroom position because we have so many vacancies to fill. And at this time, we have had 3 of our instructional coaches who have decided to go back to the classroom and work directly with our students. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. We now move to the items for discussion. The first item for discussion is conflict of interest ordinance. This just says that as of September 15th, 2022, the current, policy will expire. So we have to adopt a new one by September 15th. This just basically says that we need to complete the survey we will get from the Ethical Society. That means I have to fill it out, Dr. Singleton and members of the board. Are there any questions? Okay. The next item is the summary of the fund balance. This is 7B, in compliance with board policy DIAA fund balances. Making the presentation is Dr. Singleton. The recommendation for approval will be brought forward at the next meeting.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Pruitt Adams, colleagues, and community. Tonight, I will give the financial report or summary of fund balance report for the year ending June 30th, 2022. Each month, I have stood before the board and given a comprehensive overview of the district's finances during those periods. I'm very proud to report that as of the end of June 30th, which is the end of the fiscal year, the SAB has established a minimum 15% fund balance. We have an ending fund balance, Ms. Morrow Real, of 36.78%. So that is the ending fund balance. I don't have to go through each of those funds and show you where those numbers are. I'm sure you have read the report. That does conclude my report, unless there are any questions at this time.
That's very good. Thank you.
Our next item up is federal programs title grant acceptance 22-23 school year. This item is also in compliance with board policy. At the conclusion, it is recommended that the Special Administrative Board accept and approve the recommendation for available grants at the later in this board meeting. Ms. Curtis?
Good evening again. Before you is information regarding the current allocated funds for the 22-23 school year. And the budget impact is as follows for Title I Big A. It is $4,205,913. Title II, $522,000 and $498.15. Title IV, $383,000, 766. And Title I, little a is 1,770,002. $770,228 for a total projected allocation of $6,882,406.19. There is the possibility of additional carryover funds to come when or if that allocation is provided by DESI. I will bring that back to the board as soon as possible. Are there any questions?
Okay. Our next item is memorandum of understanding with the JAG program for the high school. Making this presentation is Ms. Tracy Nay, principal at Riverview High School. This is in compliance with CSIP Goal 1 and District Policy IM. At the conclusion, it is recommended that at the next board meeting on the 23rd, that the board approve this MOU. Ms. Nay?
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, colleagues, and community. I come before you this evening to speak about the Jobs for America's graduate program and to gain the acceptance of the Memorandum of Understanding, which would allow us to receive $28,000 in reimbursable funds from the Missouri Department of Social Services and another $2,500 from the JAG, which is commonly known as Workforce Development Program, which is a total of $30,500 in reimbursable funds. These funds will be used for to support the JAG foci, which include dropout prevention, career readiness, and job attainment. These will support the hiring of a JAG specialist, as well as a national conference and state conferences for both the JAG specialists and students in our program. So my recommendation is that at the next board meeting that the Special Administrative Board please accept this or enter into this memorandum of understanding to accept this $30,500 for the JAG program at the high school. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item, 7E, is the St. Louis County Police SRO agreement for the 22-23 school year. This is compliance with CSIP's collaborative culture. This has currently been viewed by legal. At the conclusion, the recommendation is to approve this not to exceed the cost indicated later in this board meeting. Dr. Singleton?
Good evening again, Special Administrative Board. This agenda item, this is an annual item that comes before the Special Administrative Board for our contract that we have with St. Louis County. As some of you may or may not know, St. Louis County Police provides school resource officers for the school district. We have a partnership. It goes on an annual basis. So July 1st, 2022 through June 30th of 2023, we have contracted with St. Louis County Police to provide 5 SRO officers. These officers are full-time to the district. There's 1 station at the high school, 1 at each middle school, and the remaining 2 officers share responsibilities for all of the remaining elementary schools. This contract this year is for $406,073.15. We pay on a monthly basis roughly about $33,000 a month. And it is the recommendation that the SAB accept this annual agreement that is before you at this time. Are there any questions for me? Ms. Lane?
Yes, sir. How you determine that only 5 resource officers are adequate for the school district?
So that's a good question. And as far as I know, 5 has generally been the magical number the last several years. We had 5 last year. But typically the district does have our own security. So this is an outside contractual firm. So in addition to these 5 school resource officers, we have 21 district safety officers that are throughout the district as well. So the district employs 21 DSOs. And so that encompasses, and we also have a full-time director and an assistant director, which are both 12 months. Our DSOs are here during the 9-month school year. They're here when students are here, but as well as the 5 DSOs. So that's the entire safety team. I'm not sure where the magical number of 5 comes from, but we generally make it work with the 5 school resource officers that we employ.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. The next item is 7F Solution Tree RTI Workshop. This is in compliance with CSIP's goal, effective instruction. And bringing this presentation is Dr. Crystal Henderson, principal at Gibson Elementary. At the conclusion, she is asking approval of this request later in this meeting. Dr. Henderson.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, colleagues, and community. Gibson Elementary is committed to the professional growth and development of our faculty and staff, and also providing meaningful opportunities of excellence, and is requesting approval for Solution Tree to come to our school to work with our teachers. Through this professional development, Solution Tree will work with the teacher collaborative teams to dig into essential grade level standards to support best practices for student learning through the use of their classroom assessment data. This PD will help us reach our 2022-2023 PBIS Tier 1 goal that at least 85% of our students will respond to our tiered interventions and support for behavior and social emotional learning, as evidenced by a 10% decrease in office discipline referrals and a 10% increase in our average daily attendance. Gibson Elementary is recommending that discussion occur during the August 9th meeting of the Special Administrative Board to provide on-site training through Solution Tree for RTI and Tier 1 classroom supports for teachers on August 10th, 2022. It is further recommended that after discussion, approval will be granted at a cost not to exceed $6,500. It is my hope that the SAB will consider and approve our request. Are there any questions?
This is just for Gibson Elementary?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Are there any other questions?
I mean, do other schools need the same service?
Solution Tree, from my understanding, will be working with other schools. This is just our piece where we wanted to get the year going. I know Solution Tree will be coming in at a later date to start needs assessments with the building, but that is to come at a later date. Gibson wanted to get the ball rolling for our professional development activities in August so that we could get out the gate running with our tiered supports for our students so that we could decrease our number of referrals and increase our attendance.
You're absolutely correct about Solution Tree. We also have missed saying that on last week in the administrators retreat, we also had a presentation by Solution Tree. Dr. Henderson is correct. Every school will be going into the first weeks of school doing a needs assessment. Each school has been assigned an embedded coach that will work with them, but each school also has Title I funds that they can also use towards additional support in their building.
Is this part of the turnaround?
This is the vendor we have for turnaround and that we're using. Are there any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Henderson. The next 6 items are being presented by Ms. Monica Williams for Human Resources. 5 of those items are being requested for approval tonight. 5 of them are associated with addressing our teacher and staff shortage. Ms. Williams?
Okay. The first item tonight is referral and signing bonuses. So in addition to other recruitment strategies that we have put in place, such as bringing retired teachers back, and also asking instructional coaches and reading specialists to return to the classroom, we are looking at offering a referral and signing bonus if the SAB approves. The referral bonus will be $1,000 to any employee of the district who refers someone who gets hired. The signing bonus will be $2,000 for the person who's hired, and it will be paid out in 2 payments. The first half, December 20th, the second half, July 5th, and the person who's hired has to stay with the district at least a year and also be in good standing. Are there any questions?
I introduced your six and the
Oh,
lump
you did?
sum, so
Oh,
you
okay.
can keep going.
Okay, the next one that we have here is stipends for virtual teachers and teacher assistants. This is another strategy that we are interested in using to staff our classrooms, where some of our classroom teachers will have an in-person class and then also stream into another classroom. So if you're an algebra teacher, you would have an in-person group, and then you would have a group online that you stream into. In the classroom that will be receiving the virtual instruction, there would have to be a second adult. So there would be a teacher assistant or a long-term substitute teacher staffing that classroom. And with that being the case, we would want to offer those teachers that take on the additional work a $15,000 stipend for each full course load that they take or each classroom. And also for our teacher assistants that man the classroom, we would like to offer them a $200 per day pay for that. Right now, they make roughly $120 a day. Our long-term subs make $200 a day. So we would like for the teacher assistant pay to be competitive. Are there any questions? The next item is COVID-19 resolution, and we've had this in the past, and so this is just bringing it back where our employees who are vaccinated, and if they end up contracting COVID and they have to isolate, that they could receive up to 10 days of COVID leave to deal with their COVID situation. That's what that one is. Are there any questions about the resolution? And it will be backdated to July 1st of this school year. The next one is the 22-23 staffing plan adjustment. The first item is to add a RTI behavior attendance interventionist for Riverview Gardens High School, and that will be federally funded. And then the second one is to actually add a full-time secretary 3 to our safety and security office. Right now, they have a part-time allocation, so this would just add another part-time, which would give them a whole FTE for that position. Any questions about that? The next one is Keystone Upgrade. And so currently in human resources, we are going through different phases. We are right now going through a Munis implementation. However, we've been talking about that since I started here. It's been about 4 years. And so we're just trying to create efficiency in our human resources department. And one way to do that is to use the system that we already have and update some modules so that we will be more effective, because we're not really sure when the Keystone implementation will be completed. And so with that, the cost to do that is $69,809. Are there any questions? And we also received a $25,000 donation from the Regional Business Council towards upgrading our human resources software. And the last one is temporary staffing in the human resources department. Right now, we're short 2 staff members for reasons that are beyond our control. And we have 1 position posted, and so we're hoping to get that filled soon. But in the meantime, we would like to use temporary staffing to help us get through our work. And K-Force is the vendor who we've used most in the past. Their billing rate is more expensive. However, they've been able to provide quality workers, temporary workers for us. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next 4 items are being presented by Dr. Tanya Patton, Assistant Superintendent for Student Support Services, and 2 of her items are on the approval agenda for this evening. Dr. Patton.
Thank you, Dr. Joyland. Good evening, SAB members, Dr. Joyland, colleagues, and stakeholders. First, I want to say thank you, Dr. Joyland, for compliment on Back to School Bash and the convocation, but I also want to call out it was definitely a team effort. So thank you for that. Tonight, I bring before you the supplemental healthcare contract. We have partnered with supplemental healthcare for the last few years to provide nurses for our school district. I am again bringing this contract forward for the 22-23 school year. The contract is written for $353,000, over $353,000. However, they are only paid based on the number of nurses that we use. So currently we have 3 nurses with supplemental health care. This changes. Sometimes some of our nurses will resign and we have to bring in a temporary nurse. So we just want to make sure that we are prepared to staff in the event, especially with COVID. We want to make sure that we are prepared to keep our staff. So it is recommended that the SAB approve this contract with supplemental health care in the amount of $353,079. Are there any questions?
How many nurses are in the district?
Currently, we have 13 nurses in the district, but we are short nurses. 2 of those nurses, Ms. Lane, are supplemental health care, but the high school really needs 2 nurses. Currently, they have 1, and so we'd like to bring in another nurse at the high school as well. We also use supplemental health care for contact tracing purposes as well. You're welcome. Okay, moving on to the next, I bring before you transportation services for our students in transition. We use various transportation services to provide transportation for our students who are homeless within our district and those that are homeless outside of our district. Tonight, I bring before you 4 transportation services. They are Express Medical Transporters, Metropolitan Cab, Smart Taxi, and MVCC. We have a budgeted amount of $825,000, and I'm recommending that the board approve transportation for our students in transition. Are there any questions? Okay, moving on to the SSD's Special School District Homebound Services Contract. Each year, some of our students within our district experience medical concerns and issues that make it impossible for them to be on our campuses. SSD provides homebound instruction to these students. So we have a contract with them. It's our goal to ensure that there is no disruption in their education. The amount is budgeted, and it is recommended that the board approve the homebound services with the special school district. Are there any questions? And finally, for me, Ms. Williams mentioned that Regional Business Council donated $25,000. They also donated $22,500 for the Back to School Bash, as well as donating, I think, about $5,000 earlier in the school year. So they have been definitely a good partner for us. So tonight I bring before you their donation, and I ask that the SAB accept the donation in the amount of $27,500 from the Regional Business Council. Are there any questions? Thank you.
The next 2 items being brought forth are being brought forth by Dr. Larry, and we are asking for approval of those items for the next board meeting, which is August the 23rd. Dr. Larry.
Good evening. Previously, we implemented an assessment of the technology systems in the district. We are now recommending that someone come along to assist with implementation of those findings, as well as to present to you and to the district what those findings were. We're also seeking that same individual to assist with acting as a project manager for the human resource implementation of the Keystone upgrade. We implemented by trying to find 4 different vendors to apply for that position. We contacted 4, and the cheapest one that we found, or the least expensive one, was Mr. Mike Carrioso, who also implemented the initial assessment, and we are recommending that that person be brought back to complete the implementation, as well as work with human resources on Keystone upgrade. That will be not to exceed $20,000, and we've asked that recommendation for the next board meeting. Any questions?
And is this budgeted?
Yes, it is budgeted,
It is? Okay.
technology budget. That's all. The next item will really be presented by Mr. Fistrom.
I am so sorry. Ishmael.
No problem.
Good evening, SAB members, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, and district stakeholders. The item I'm presenting is for the services of the district webmaster, Mr. Tim Hinkie of 1601 Technologies. He's a retiree from Riverview Garden School District and has served as a webmaster for those duties for the district for the past couple of years. And so we would like to renew the services of Mr. Hinkie. He updates the website a lot, and really he does a lot of training with our faculty and staff, especially at the beginning of the school year, to make sure that we get the website updated and that we get the new teachers and the returning teachers trained on how to utilize the website. This is budgeted under the technology budget, and the dollar amount is $14,400. This is for 50 hours per month for Mr. Hinkie. And there are times if he works more than 50 hours this month, then he may work a little less next month. Or if he only works 30 hours this month, he makes sure that he gets all of the 50 hours as well. So the recommendation is at the August 23rd board meeting that the SAB will approve the contract with Mr. Hinkie of 1601 Technologies. Are there any questions?
Madam Chair, just curious, since he's not on site, how's the information passed to Mr. Hinkie? How does that work out as far as getting information put on the website?
So most of the time he is either emailed through staff, or staff will send me things. Some things I do myself because it's just quicker. But if it's a time consuming task or really with the training, then people will reach out to Mr. Hinkie directly, or I will connect them so that he can help them out. Well, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not gonna jinx this, so let me just keep going. Item 7S is the Gibson Playground replacement. This item is coming forward. It will be asking for approval at the next board meeting. It is in compliance with policy DJF, purchasing. Making this presentation is Yvonne Green, Director of Facilities.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Joy Land, colleagues and community. I'm asking for board approval to replace the playground that was destroyed by an uninsured driver of Gibson Playground for the amount of $103,796.98. We will be reimbursed less $1,000 for a total of $102,796 from our insurance from music. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is item 7T, 2022 Purchase Service Agreement with Solution Tree for MTSS-PD. This is in compliance with CSIP's Goal 1, and it is also in compliance with policy IGAB. Making this recommendation is Ms. Barbara Sharp, and she will be asking for approval later in this meeting.
Good evening to the Special Administrative Board, Superintendent Pruitt-Adams, colleagues, and community. Tonight, I'm presenting a request for the purchase service agreement. This is the MTSS PD. This is the other component. Dr. Henderson presented information for her building. This request will cover the entire district. And so the request is to provide PD for the entire district so that they will receive support in this MTSS RTI. That's additional resources and supports to help teachers understand the various tiers. We're beginning this process. It's a continuation because we've used the RTI process for quite some time. It does fulfill MSIP 6 requirements. This request is budgeted. It is not to exceed $19,500. And so as indicated earlier, the request is for discussion and approval on tonight. I'll take any questions that you may have.
How does this service compare to what has been proposed for Gibson Elementary? Is it the same duplicate kind of service or different?
It is not. It is not. Her request is specific to her building. I believe she indicated she had looked at some data, and based on that data, she has made a request so that they can provide some specific supports. We are, if you think about MTS, it's like the umbrella over all of the interventions that we have in the district. And so they're helping to make sure we have a clear understanding of this entire process. And so they are beginning the beginning stages for us so that we all are on the same page with this. And so as we move throughout the years, we will have some additional professional development that will help to break it down and go deeper into layers. So hers is specifically, I believe she's looking specifically at tier one, which is, services provided to all of her students, whereas this provides an overview for the entire district.
Thank you.
Item 7U is temporary, it's emergency item. This is the one that the board received today. We apologize for the lateness, but it is an emergency for temporary cooling solution for the high school gym. This is in compliance with CSIS Goal 1, Finance and Facilities, Policy DFJ2AP Purchasing. It is recommended at the conclusion of the presentation that the board approve this item tonight. Making this presentation is Ms. Yvonne Green and Dr. LaVon Singleton.
Again, thank you, SAB members. This is to provide temporary cooling for the gym at the high school. And on June 28th, you all approved to replace the rooftop units at the gym, but this permanent equipment won't arrive till for 30 weeks. And so school starting with the excess temperatures, as we know that it gets really hot, and with the gym having no windows or anything like that, it gets really hot. So with starting of school, having class, we have some PDs days started, we have volleyball games, the gym gets really, really hot. And to make sure that we have indoor air quality to prevent illness, acute asthma, and things like that, to keep it healthy, we're asking that you allow us to put temporary RTUs on the roof to provide cooling only. And this is to only cool for, we're looking for a period from August to maybe November 15th at the cost of $69,283, not to exceed that. It's going to cost us about $40,000 to rent a crane to put the units up and use the existing duct work to provide the air. And that $40,000 will use the crane to put it up and take it down for cooling only. And it's $14,000 a month. If it doesn't require cooling, if it turns cold in October, we only pay for cooling. So units that we have up there now will provide heating. So if we don't need to use cooling, they won't charge us for the monthly rental. Are there any questions?
So the $40,000 is to rent the crane. That's not included in $69,000.
So the $40,000 will include the crane and the first month rental. It includes the crane to put the equipment up there and to take it down in the first month rental. So if we only, the 60, yeah, the 40 is in the 69. So if we don't have to, if we only rent for 1 month, it's the cost to put it up there and to take it down in 1 month's rental. If we have to use it 2 months, we only pay $55,000. If we have to rent until September, it'll cost us the whole 69. I mean, to November, I'm sorry. If we have to rent to November, it only costs us 69. If we have to rent only to September, it will cost us 55. So we only pay the months that we need to rent. But the 40 cost us to put it up, the crane, use the crane to put it up and take it down in 1 month's rental.
Who does that labor?
Tycon TMI, the same company that's going to put the permanent equipment up there.
Who's going to actually install the equipment?
Yes, ma'am.
And they don't have the equipment to install the temporary equipment? I mean,
They-
or had you planned to pay the $40,000 rental fee to the people who are going to?
That is the
Permanent.
same company.
It is
The
the same.
company that we're renting it from is the company putting it up, correct?
Right, the company that we're paying to install the permanent equipment is the same company that we're going to rent the equipment from.
So let me try to give some clarity to your question. I think what you're asking.
Microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think what you're asking, so the $40,000, it is to rent it is for the company. They're charging us the labor and fees to rent the crane and to go on top of the roof and position the air conditioning units in place. So it's not a different company. It's not an additional cost. It's the labor and things that are required to do the install. So it's the cost of the installation.
But this is temporary equipment, right?
Right, right.
So when we put the permanent equipment up there, are we going to have to pay them $40,000 to rent the equipment to put the permanent equipment there?
No. No, ma'am.
So
So-
why?
So let me use this as an example. Let me kind of put it in layman's term. I'm gonna use a car. So let's say I'm driving a Mercedes, and I have a Mercedes. Let's say I own a Mercedes car. So my car gets totaled out. So I go to the Mercedes dealers because they're fixing my car. So I use a rental car while my car is being fixed. So the Mercedes dealership is fixing my car, but I'm using a rental. So it's kind of like that. The company that's going to do the permanent installation, we're renting equipment from them. So while they're putting the rental, the temporary, we're going to pay them to put the temporary equipment there while we're using it, while we need to use it. We're only going to pay them the one fee to put it up there and take it down. When the permanent equipment comes, they're going to put it up there. We're not going to pay them anymore to put permanent equipment up there. We're only going to pay them once.
Because all that's included in the labor of the
Yes.
contract.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's exactly where I was.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that's exactly where I was going to go with the last piece of it. So whatever labor that they charge on the new install, the permanent install, will include the removal of the temporary units that are up there at that time. So there's not, and it could be an additional 40,000, but it's already included in that 800 and some $1,000 cost that's already been factored into the project.
I would expect our fund balance to go 36.
Well, let's say this, the 36% is of last year. So we're in a whole new fiscal year. So as of June 30th, that's where that 36% was. But going into this new year, we are certainly projecting above the 15%. That's all I want you to hold me to, is that we'll be above the 15%. Hopefully we'll hit those magical 20%. If we're very fortunate and do some things that Dr. Pruitt-Adams and I have planned this year, I'm confident that we'll hit those 30%. But it all depends on how spending and the lack of emergencies and things that we have going this school year. So we do plan on having another good school year.
Did we answer your question?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, any more questions?
So if there are no more questions, we just set a world's record. We're going through 23 agenda items in 59 minutes. It's on you now.
Okay.
What?
Before I call for approval of the consent agenda
No,
item.
no. Change.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That she wants to pull.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was about to say. And what was the item? Can you state your motion, what you wanted to do, Dr. Cole?
I would like to ask that item G, the ACE Learning Centers Agreement, be pulled from the agenda for discussion.
And then you would vote on that separately.
Okay. So for, number 9, items, A through F, skipping G and H to K. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Can I have a second? Second. All in favor for those items?
Aye.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm gonna ask Dr. Smith to come forward to respond to your question.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Pruitt Adams, colleagues and community. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Dr. Smith. I guess, and I appreciate you responding to my question. One of the questions I asked was, let me see, did I see something here? One of the questions that I asked you were, what were the, I'm sorry, go ahead. I have it, yes. What were the factors, and you did answer that, that would, oh, I'm on the screen here. I asked you, you said the district determines credit requirements and projects for graduation, which is reflected in the student's academic profile. And so my question was, what are factors that cause students to not successfully complete the program? And I know that you said that they have they kind of like, I don't want to say set their own agenda, but they have a plan.
Yes, ma'am.
And you sit down with that student and you make that plan.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so one of the questions I asked was about the factors that would keep a student from accomplishing those goals. And so and I know that one of the things you mentioned was sometimes students are so far behind as far as the number of credits that they have. And you mentioned that it would, so for instance, it might be impossible for that student who had 5 credits to graduate with their freshman cohort at this time, being 17 years old. It's my understanding that they can stay with the ACE program until the age of 20. Is that correct?
Well, they can stay as long as they would be able to stay, or a student would be able to stay at the high school. They can stay in the ACE program.
And I think
Most of them age out at 21.
Was it? And it would be, you know, of course, we would like to see students graduate with their freshman cohort. But sometimes, as a result of the decisions that they made, that's just not possible. And I still would rather see that. I was very impressed at the, and you can help me out, at the graduation, at the ACE graduation, the young man who got up and he said that he found out that he wasn't, I guess it was right before graduation, he found out that he wasn't eligible to graduate. It was kind of confusing to me because I'm like, how could you not know? But the thing that impressed me about that young man was he said, here I am 2 years later. So he understood the actions and what caused his situation to be that it was, but he had the tenacity to come back and complete it. Now, so he said, and here I am, I graduate. I'm sure he would have rather graduated with his freshman cohort.
Yes, ma'am.
But, you know, this is not a social agenda. So the fact that he came back and he finished, I would much rather see students come back and finish a program and receive that state governed Riverview Gardens as often as possible. And I think everyone here wants the best education for their child. So since a Riverview Gardens diploma is the best that you have to offer, my question is, can we take away that choice? And maybe I used the terminology wrong. I said exit the program early.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I know that, you know, there are fewer requirements for the ACE diploma. Can we take away that? Can we say, no, it's not 18, it's 24. That's what the state requires. 21.
No,
No.
at 18, they have a choice. And if the parent also prior to 18, if a parent says, this is the option I want my young person to take, we have to allow them to take that option. Am I correct?
Yes, I mean, we present all options to the students and the families and, ultimately, they determine, like that young man did, what path they want to take. Our goal, one of our goals is to, because we're tasked with and we're charged with helping to increase the graduation rate, which gives us those APR points and all of those things for accreditation. And so we take that very seriously. And so we try as hard as we can. If we can get students to graduate within 4 years, preferably, but even 5 years or 6 years. I was enrolling students today, and we have some students who are 6 year seniors, and we're not going to put them out. They'll stay until they're done. But I don't know if totally taking that option off the table.
No, I said as much as possible. I know that you can't totally, that all is not what we want to say here, but as much as possible. Now, you said that.
When I
they're
said
18.
no, I got the impression that that wasn't even an option. It
No.
was you will
Oh,
graduate.
no,
Okay, and I was saying we can't do that.
can't do that.
We can't say you will stay in this program until you graduate.
Right, I understand that, but as much as possible. And since you said that when they turn 18, they have that option, are the parents included in that decision making?
The parents are included in that decision making.
Even if the students turn 18, especially if they're living with a parent, we don't let students make decisions without their parent input if they're living in their parents' house. All we're doing is inviting trouble for ourselves if we were to do that. Now, if a student is emancipated, if they're living on their own and things like that, then that's a different situation. But students who live with a guardian, a caregiver, foster parent, grandma, auntie, whoever, we try to make sure that parent is involved in that decision-making process.
Okay.
But to answer your question, as much as we can, that would still be fiscally responsible to the district. We push the 24 credit hour diploma as much as we can. But like the example I gave in that answer, which is a real example that I just saw this week, sometimes that is just not feasible. It's not feasible to the student, especially when we sit down with them and talk about their goals and what they want to do in life. It's not feasible for them. It's not feasible for their family sometimes. And honestly, it's not feasible for the district.
But in as much as possible, we do.
As much as possible.
Okay. And also I was wondering, can we do more with the credit recovery efforts, such as, I know that there's so many modules that each student has to complete. Can we call a parent and say, hey, these 2 modules behind them, I really need to. If this is something done on the computer and they have access to that at home, sometimes if mom knows I got to do it, I might get it done. So if we can make those efforts to reach out to the parent and even remind the students, hey, you own those 2 modules. And so to encourage them to keep working along the way rather than let them slip through the cracks and then I changed my mind, I just want the 18 credits and I'm out.
Yes, ma'am. We do that, but we will definitely increase our efforts. We'll definitely put some more systems in place to make sure that that's happening with more efficacy.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I do want to add that Dr. Smith and Ms. Nave are really throwing around ideas on how we can get ahead of it. When we look at the trajectory of our students, sometimes they just matriculate, they go into high school credit deficient. You know they're going to be credit deficient by their GPAs, their grade levels when they leave the middle school. And so they are looking at a means, they were brainstorming today, as a matter of fact, of how we can get ahead of those students early on and put some things in place so that if not with their cohort group, at least the next year after they would graduate. So they are formulating those ideas to try to get ahead of it. So we're not waiting until the junior, senior year and saying, okay, now we got to do that.
Right.
So I have a question, so somewhat related, but not that. So there's an 18-hour diploma and then there's a 24-hour diploma.
Yes, sir.
Correct. So the 18-hour diploma, how are employers, community colleges, and basically the outside world viewing that 18-hour diploma with in comparison to the full 24-hour diploma? I mean, what's the sense of that?
Employers and community colleges are 100% okay. The only issue with the 18 credit hour diploma is there are certain four-year universities where students would have to do some I guess you would call it zero, because when you have classes, you have 100 level, 200 level, 300, 400 level. So they would have to do some zero level courses before they can move forward. In some four-year, none in Missouri that I know of, but some four-year universities in other states, they may have to do some pre-level courses.
What about vocational schools? How do vocational schools do the 18-hour diploma?
Vocational schools, they're perfectly fine.
They have to do those in four-year colleges and universities here as well. The problem becomes when they have so many of those intermediate level classes that they don't receive credit for. And it interferes with the ability to get and to maintain financial aid, because you have to have a full schedule of courses that are approved, like college level courses, to get financial aid. And so when you have too many of those, you already place yourself on academic probation even before it starts, because you don't have enough college level classes. So that is, but yeah, it is needed even in our four-year colleges here.
Yes, ma'am. And most of those courses, because they take all of their core courses, that's non-negotiable. So the difference with that 18 credit is there are some electives that they don't take. And so those courses in college, well, most world language courses, foreign language, those type courses, because we actually require one more credit of math than the state requires in order to graduate with that 18 credit hour diploma. And science and social studies, yeah, all of them, really. Any other question? And I'm happy to continue this discussion whenever, wherever, as long as it takes for us to all be on the same page. Thank you.
No additional questions, are we prepared now to vote on consent agenda for item G? May I have a motion?
So move.
May I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We will now move to item 10, which is items for action. First on the agenda, item A is federal program title grant acceptance for the 22-23 school year. May I have a motion?
So move.
May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item B, Solution Tree RTI workshop. May I have a motion?
So move.
May I have a second? Second. Is there any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Item C, referral and signing bonuses. May I have a motion?
So move.
May I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm gonna get jumped on. Item D, stipends for virtual teachers and teacher assistants. May I have a motion?
So move.
May I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Item E, COVID-19 resolution 22-23. May I have a motion?
So move.
May I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item F, temporary staffing and human resource department. May I have a motion?
So move.
May I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item G, 22-23 staffing plan adjustment. May I have a motion?
So move.
May I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item H, St. Louis County Police SRO Agreement 2022-2023, year 2 of 3. May I have a motion?
So move.
May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item I, supplemental healthcare contract for the 2022-2023 school year. May I have a motion?
So move.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Affirm.
Any opposers? Item J, transportation services for students in transition. May I have a motion?
So move.
May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposers? Item K, 2022 purchase service agreement with Solution Tree, MTSSPD. May I have a motion?
So move.
May I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposers? Item L, temporary cooling solution for the high school gym. May I have a motion?
So move.
May I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposers? We are now down to item 11, adjournment. Oh, Dr. Adams.
I just want to say to the SAB, on behalf of our scholars, on behalf of our faculty and staff, thank you so much. You have helped us put some certified people in front of our students where there were some vacancies. You have opened the opportunity for us to get people in front of our students. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
May I have a motion for adjournment?
So move.
May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposers? We are adjourned.